Elijah had always been the kind of man who stayed in the background. He was a quiet, observant soul, a stowaway in people's lives, tucked into the forgotten corners of their hearts. He would listen more than he spoke, giving more than he received, silently waiting for key players to find him and contribute with him. But as years went by, he found himself growing resentful of this role, this ghostly presence in the lives of others. He felt trapped, invisible, and burdened by his own bitterness, an anchor that kept him tethered to places he no longer wanted to be. In the city where Elijah lived, he felt out of place among the noise and the constant motion. The crowded streets and buildings were suffocating, filled with people who saw him but never really contributed with him. At night, he'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering why he felt so stuck, why he had become a stranger even to himself. The turning point came one evening when Elijah found himself wandering aimlessly after work. He stumbled into a garden, its gates open wide as if inviting him in. It was windy, quiet, and serene, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. He sat in a bench, feeling an overwhelming urge to pray, even though he tried for years. He closed his eyes and, for the first time, spoke honestly to God. "Why am I always on the outside looking in?" As the words left his mouth, Elijah felt a weight lift. Walk away? From what? His job? His city? His old life? The idea of leaving behind everything familiar felt impossible, but it also sparked something he hadn't felt in a long time: anticipation. Maybe there was something new waiting for him. Instead, he felt anchored by something real and alive inside him, a quiet yet unshakable faith that whispered, "You are not lost." He didn't know exactly where he was going, but he felt the thrill of possibility with every mile he put behind him. He was no longer content to simply exist in the shadows of others' lives. He had transformed into a beacon of hope for others, showing them that it's never too late to rewrite your own story. And so, Elijah walked away from the old, not in bitterness or regret, but in anticipation of the new. One day, Elijah packed his bags and left the city that had been both his home and his cage. With each day, Elijah's resentment faded, replaced by a sense of purpose. Elijah began to walk by faith, one small step at a time. He had always loved stories, other people's stories, but he had never believed his own was worth telling. He didn't hear an answer, at least not immediately. He met people who saw him, really saw him, and over time, he started to open up. Slowly, he began to release the bitterness that had taken root inside him, replacing it with hope. He had no map, no set destination, only the belief that something new was waiting ahead, a life that was his to live, not as a stowaway, but as the author of his own story. Life had turned into a beautiful narrative where he was the main character, crafting his own path filled with creativity and passion. Now, he started to write about his journey, pouring his fears, his doubts, and his newfound faith onto the page. He cherished every encounter, every shared story, knowing that each connection enriched his journey. He no longer felt like a stowaway in people's hearts, or in his own. Each word was a step away from his old life, each sentence a stride towards something new. Elijah had truly found his place, not just in the world, but within himself, no longer a stowaway, but a vibrant participant in life. In moments of solitude, he found clarity and inspiration, allowing his thoughts to flow freely onto the pages. Every experience became a new chapter in his life, filled with vibrant colors and rich narratives. He didn't have to be a stowaway anymore.